In these times of uncertainty, it's all the more important that we keep collaborating, informing, and inspiring each other, so that we can be smarter and better tomorrow. Welcome to the Pakhuis de Zwijger livecast.
Hello everyone. On behalf of Pakhuis de Zwijger, welcome to this livecast about emerging stories. My name is Rut Kronenburg and I'm the host of today. This is the 13th episode of Emerging Stories, the talk show we are talking about the importance and the future of independent journalism. Especially during these very uncertain and troublesome times, access to reliable information is even more important than ever. And in this series, we dive into different aspects of journalism. We touch upon the problems, but we are also offering some of the solutions. And we do that with international guests, photographers, journalists, media experts all over the world. They share with us their emerging stories and the future of independent journalism. And today is all about women in media, and we talk about this topic with two special guests. In the studio, we have Jeannette Vaassen, Director of Women Inc. Jeannette, a very warm welcome.
Thank you.
And I hope we have via Zoom with us Tidiane Togola. Tidiane, are you with us? Not yet. Hopefully, Tidiane will join us in a few minutes. We have a break after 30 minutes. Then we go to Zimbabwe, where we talk with a photographer, and he shows some of his pictures with us. But first, we go to Jeannette. Jeannette, a very warm welcome again.
Thank you.
You had a career in the media, right? Prior to Women Inc.
Yes, I did, actually. We have a 15 years of jubilee now of Women Inc., our women's organization.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And before I was into this, I was a media maker, also for, I think, 10 years. So I know this topic from different perspectives now. And now from the perspective of an NGO that wishes to strive for a world where it doesn't, you don't have equal chances for boys and girls. And one of our topics is actually the media and imaging and framing, stereotyping, and how that affects the chances of boys and girls.
In general?
In general, yeah, actually we do have two other topics too. That's also the financial position of women and also the health position of women. But we found out that the imaging of women in the media is really of importance also for these topics too. So when we're 10 years old, now we're 15 as an organization, we have a publication on this subject, which is called Limited View. You see it here, where we addressed it to all the important media makers of the Netherlands. And we addressed not only this literature study we did with the University of Utrecht, but also asked them to play the roles they can play to make media less stereotyped and more representative.
It sounds great. Let's dive to that later.
Yeah.
Let's see if Tidiane has joined us already. Tidiane, are you there? Not yet.
Mystery guest.
Mystery guest, indeed. Jeannette, can you please share with us why the switch from media to Women Inc.?
You mean my personal career?
Yes.
Because it's still in Women Inc. now. No, when I was, I think, 35, maybe the most simple reason was that I gave birth to a daughter. And I found the career in media and journalism really hectic. I was a documentary maker, so it was always either very busy or very quiet in the work I did. And I really needed some more, base to have when I had a daughter. Mm-hmm. So what I thought was really interesting when I switched from the media to more the activism that I'm now part of, is that first we made audiovisual projects and then you have a really beautiful coverage in media, and then in media you can also contain what you made, like today. People can see this and review it after. But when you're an activist and you make more live programs, you are always in contact with your public. I really like that, because when you're making audiovisual media, you don't see the reactions of people. So I like the best of both worlds of program making. And it's funny because your colleague put this image after. Now I'm an media maker, researcher, actually researching the media makers. I see that women are often put in such funny settings, because the image you see behind you is the image of an interview with the scientists, but she's put into the setting of her kitchen to talk about what is her scientific topic.
This is indeed a bit peculiar.
And this happens often. We had some research on this also in our publication Limited View. Then you see that women are more often taking in a setting of like the household, but men
because
that
is very stereotypical.
Yeah, it is. It's very very stereotypical. It's linking them to their role of being a mother.
Right.
But men are more often taken into a studio or into a
laboratory
of, and this is really, I think, also that impacts how people watching all these media have all these same associations all the time, all these stereotyped associations of women to care, men to work, women to a passive role, men to an active role, women to beauty or giving birth to children, and men in their physical power or in the results they're booking. So it's really a binary in our head, programmed how men and women are framed, and you see that over and over and over again in the media.
And how to break that.
How
right?
to break that.
We'll dive into that later. I think Tidiane is still not with us, but actually we went to the streets to ask the public, the Dutch public, what they think about how women are representative at the television. Our reporter went to Amsterdam and asked some passers-by what they think. Let's have a look.
Eigenlijk let ik daar niet zo heel veel op. Dat is me eigenlijk ook nog nooit echt opgevallen. Daar kijk ik helemaal niet naar. Ik vind gewoon een persoon is een persoon op tv. En als diegene het nieuws vertelt en het is een man of het is een vrouw, vind ik dat geen verschil maakt.
Ja, je zou zeggen 50-50. En als er genoeg mensen zijn die gekwalificeerd zijn, die dat kunnen, dan zou dat 50-50 moeten worden. En als je niet genoeg gekwalificeerde mensen hebt, dan moet je dus daar iets aan doen in de opleidingen voor journalisten. Ik denk dat een goede verdeling belangrijk is.
Nou, als dat verkeerde getallen zijn, dan worden we besodemieterd.
Het valt me wel op dat het een beetje gelijker aan het trekken is, langzaam maar zeker. Dat er iets meer op gelet wordt, maar het valt me ook tegelijkertijd nog op dat het inderdaad wel vaak over vertegenwoordiging van mannen is. Ik hoop dat het doorzet, die wat meer gelijkwaardige vertegenwoordiging. En dat dat niet al te lang meer duurt. Maar ik heb ook wel de indruk dat er aan gewerkt wordt. Of dat programma's zich er misschien meer van bewust zijn. Of dat er überhaupt meer aandacht voor is. Dus dat lijkt me een goede zaak.
It's a bit of not representation. So it would be very good to have more fair numbers in media too. Also at workplaces, some teams and groups would be benefited from more of a mix of men and women. Not only male teams and groups, not only women groups. So when you have a more healthier mix, you have more happiness and productivity at work too. So it's not only about media, it's about all areas of life.
Was a great statement actually to end with.
All of them. I recognize all of them,
okay.
all what they're saying. The last man speaking, and also the women before, they say, I think it's progressing, right? And it is. If we talk about women in expert roles, for instance, in news media, it was 12%. Women in expert roles, and now it goes up to 30%, but we're not at 50 yet. And another woman says, well, let's see if there have to be many more women educated to be experts. That's not the problem.
No, I don't believe so either. I mean, you're an expert yourself.
Yeah, but also women in the Netherlands are really highly educated.
Right.
It's actually the teams of Media Maker who think that they're more easily found, the men being an expert, because they saw them before. I can understand that. And if you have a quick medium, you should be quick in scoring the new news and the new experts, etc. You think easily, okay, the one who was good before. So they are in these old mechanisms, so they will be refound. But there are actually enough women, and that's
what
not
is the problem then? Why aren't
as I
there
said,
so many people?
they're not found easily because not in the images yet and in the programs yet. So,
but is that because the journalists are not doing their job, or are they not searching well enough?
They have a time squeeze and they go for the easy way. And also, there's something really deep in stereotyping in our brains that we think of men as having more power or gezag, how would you say that in authority? Yeah. Well, they think they score better with men, and all these things will only change. It's like Kafka if they change the images. So
right.
I think it's also media makers having waited a long time until there was an emergency that people asked for it, and I think this is now the time where also the public is really emancipated, and the public loses interest if they are not represented in media. So both the public and also the lack of certain perspectives. You see that also now in media, not only male, female, but also from different ethnic minorities. If their perspectives are not in the images and in the programs, they get really angry. So the moment is now.
It should be a good reflection of society.
Yeah.
That is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And we have with us Tidiane. Hi.
Hi.
Where were you? Don't answer that. But we're very happy that you're with us. I didn't have a chance to properly introduce you, but you are actually an ICT specialist, right? And made a switch to women in the media. Can you explain a little bit why and how?
Thank you very much. I'm Tijani Tugul, and I'm the CEO of Twindy Foundation. Basically, my background is ICTs, but my work actually is more civic tech. And from the different observations that we've seen here in Mali and in sub-Saharan region, we noticed that the women are very, very, very underrepresented in the media content as well as in media structures. That's why very quickly we said, okay, we can't. I mean, it's not fair not to have women in media or to present women in some way that nobody wants to be presented. And,
but can I ask?
With Free Press, which is a partner of Twindy Foundation, and with them we collaborate to find a way to use technologies to support women in media.
Okay. And how did you find out that women are so underrepresented in the media? Did you do research about that?
Yes, it was, first of all, it was very empiric. This was just a general observation. And then we have conducted with Free Press Unlimited a media monitoring, and based on the results of those media monitoring, we've seen that women was very, very, very underrepresented. Before this monitoring, we've also seen different reports, particularly the GMMP report, which shows also how much women are very underrepresented, both in the content of the media and also in even the media organization himself, in terms of the organization leading and staff.
Yes, and actually, Janette, you have some figures about that, statistics, right? And also you compared it with Mali. Maybe it's nice to share it.
Hi, Tidiane. I'm Janette from the Netherlands. And before we started the program, I did some comparison between our two countries on how we are in the gender gap of the World Economic Forum and how your country and my country presents itself. And we are actually going down in that gender gap index. We think we are a real good country if it goes on emancipation, but we fell down from a 12th position to a 38th position. Do you have any idea where your country is in this gender gap?
Well, I didn't see the report you're talking about, but unfortunately the situation in Mali is that it's not just the gap. It's more today. The thing that fear ourselves is more about the violence against women. In addition to the gap, today we have in a very bad situation in terms of the violence against women. For example, very recently, probably you are aware on it. A very famous artist called Sidiki Diabaté has beat a woman and even hit her, and then he was like protected by different other artists, but finally he is now in jail. We're happy for that because he needs to be punished for this very animosity against women.
Yeah, and well, of course, we do have different situations on emancipation and gender. Your country is on the 139th position in this gender gap. And maybe interesting, you're not surprised? Well, I was surprised that we went down as the Netherlands. Of course, the Scandinavian the countries are in the top 3.
Always.
But also Zimbabwe. I think we have a guest from Zimbabwe I researched.
Yes, later on.
And they are in the 45th position, so comparable to the Netherlands where it goes to emancipation. So,
more or less.
Yeah.
So Tidiane, you say that violence against women is one of the biggest problems in Mali. What else? Or is this the biggest problem? Or can you also share with us some other problems when it comes to women in the media?
So there is the violence is a very general situation, but when it comes to the women in media, it's more the inequity approach from the different media responsible. For example, the women in media that don't have the same salary as men, and there is many other topics they cannot cover because they think just they are women. And in terms of media leading, they are just here like intern, but they cannot access to any leader position or those kind of stuff. So this is the different type of thing that very quickly we. So we have also some very specific situation of of a stereotype, or we also have the situation of harassment against women. So we have all those, we have all those situations, all the bad situations we can imagine, we have that. And when it comes to the information, the content, women are like tagged as good for music or for entertainment emission programs, but not for important subjects. For example, when they are talking about politics, or when they are talking about scientific thing, they generally they prefer going to have interview with a man, a male, not a woman. So these are the type of situation that we very usually meet here in Mali.
Thank you. You recognize this,
Yeah, I
eh?
see some comparison there because when we started Tidiane, we also had this same analysis from the Netherlands that there are not as many men represented in the expert roles and more like in the presentation or the entertainment roles, as you say. And also another thing that you say is apart from in the media, how are women represented in the media? It's also how they're represented on the working floors of the media organizations. And another thing, maybe we have less visible or explicit harassment, as you mentioned, in Mali, but that lots of female journalists feel an unsafe climate if they have certain topics in the media and also on social media. They're harassed more harassment in verbally, but 40% of Dutch journalists, female, say that they don't go on certain topics because they're afraid of being harassed afterwards. And it's also research that happens more with women and especially women of color. And that's something that I really also want to ask you because we are different countries. In the Netherlands, I noticed that you have the aspect of male-female differences in representation and stereotyping, but also of people of different ethnic minorities. And the Dutch media makers, all the time that we try to talk with them on the male-female issue, they say we don't want to do only the male-female issue. We really want to deepen ourselves also in different ethnic minorities and how they are represented. So they are more interested in inclusive media than in gender-sensitive media. How is that in your country?
Here in Mali, we are more inclusive media than gender sensitive also. This is what we meet generally. But when we talk about inclusive, it's about inclusive of topics, of regions, but for me, media cannot be enough inclusive when the challenge of gender representativity and representation is not taken account, because this is extremely important. That's why me personally, I think there is no very inclusivity in media for me, because women are still not enough represented in the content. Mm-hmm. And of course, for some specific type of topics, a man is sometimes shows like good to present than a woman, and we have in general many women also who actually auto-censored themselves. But this is our situation in Mali.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so it's very difficult, of course, and we see this problem all over the world, sadly. Jeannette, you also mentioned, or I read about it, that you have this Loquet ink,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Can you share a little bit with us what that is?
Yeah, that's because of what I just said, that I noticed that media makers are interested to be more inclusive. So they ask us for advice, for example, maybe also with you, Tidiane. And they really want to learn how to be more inclusive. And we have some stereotypes that we may think are so obvious, but we really have to learn them. There are some here in the image that, for instance, asking someone about their profession, if a journalist does that with a man or with a woman, they sometimes pose different questions. We made fun of that by just making a controversy of it. So asking a male minister now who is responsible for the COVID pandemic, and asking him, okay, how do you combine a pandemic with your work-life balance and with raising your children? This is really actually questions that female ministers get, right?
Right.
So sometimes
not
the
only
journalists
ministers,
are not aware of how stereotyped their questions are. And some of these stereotypes, we really have to learn them so they see that they can pose questions differently. Or ask, for instance, you had interesting Vox Populi. Normally they see that their talk show tables are mainly men. And then when they go Vox Populi, they do all women. You did a beautiful mix there, but normally the Vox Populi is all women and all minorities, not in an expert role, speaking about their feelings. So they, without knowing, use
so
stereotypes
we're more or
themselves.
less conditioned in that way.
Yeah, and we have training for that in Locat Inc. and also something like using words. If you use the word excellent, people will always think of a man. This is how science and excellence is always been men dominated. So if you have like a job offer and you want women to react, don't use the word excellence, because they will not feel that it's about them or that they will be chosen. Some real practical things we can learn, people.
Very interesting. And Tidiane, you offer media also master classes or trainings when it comes to be more gender sensitive, right?
Yes, we do that because this is this is one of the key activity that we do. The objective is both to have more journalists, male and female journalists, more sensitive, gender sensitive, and we also do the same exercise with media organization owner and also media organization leaders, so they can be more gender sensitive, and so they can start to be more inclusive in terms of the program they're presenting, and also in terms of
I'm a bit curious. Do you find resistance when you actually try to teach them to be more gender sensitive, or are they very open and willing to learn?
At the old beginning, they wasn't actually open. At the old beginning, there was like thinking that, okay, we're here just because we want to they actually, at the old beginning, no, it was very complicated for us. But when we start to work with them, and when we encourage and accompany them to write stories, and so they have seen that the stories they are writing or they are broadcasting are completely different from the previous stories they used to do, and I've seen the add value in terms of the professionalism and how much the content they are producing is more innovative. So very quickly they start to be more open to the masterclass, and many other key actors start to be on demand. They even start to ask us to give them training so they can be more gender sensitive when they are writing stories or when they are making stories.
Are you also saying then that it attracts more audiences when they are more gender sensitive?
Exactly, because when they are more gender sensitive, they actually grow their audience. This is something that we've noticed, and even this is, I think, even if some of them didn't say that directly to us, I can assume that many ask this because they've just seen by changing the way they are writing stories, they grow their audience, because they can find now more women interested in what they are writing. Their content is not just like how is it treating in terms of not just one angle. They are more open and more inclusive, and they are growing their audience, and by growing their audience, this means also growing the incomes.
Yeah. It's same here, more public and more perspectives. That's what you can offer them by being more inclusive. And I'm also wondering, Tidiane, in your country, how it works, because in our country there's really also, because of new and social media, lots of discussion on media, and also how they have the wrong stereotyped images, or how they have stupid questions to a female guest, and then people react really on social media. And I think that 5 years ago people in media were not so aware, because they were just doing their beautiful jobs and thinking they were really neutral journalists bringing the news. But now we have such an educated public and such a outspoken public. I think now for the first time people really think, ooh, we shouldn't lose perspectives, we shouldn't lose public, and are more aware because of the, well, emancipated listener and viewer. Do you recognize that in your country?
Yes, this is actually something that we are observing more and more. We have some more people educated to gender, and but we have a specific issue when it comes to that, in particular when it comes to stereotype. You know, from our culture, we grow with many stereotypes. From just this is just culturally based on our culture. So even when we go on social media, we still meet some kind of stereotype that are not actually wished. But in general, today when we go on media, on social media particularly, people are educated by those social media, because they meet also some women defender organization, and some active women gender activists, and all those people are contributing to change narrative and to change the way things used to be analyzed or to be seen.
So the public is more interactive, so to say. Let's hold on to this thought, and we get back on this topic later. But now we're going to something completely different. Every week we are going to talk to a photographer about his or her work, and he or she tells and shares with us through the pictures the future of journalism. And today we have with us from Zimbabwe, KB Mpofu. KB, very welcome.
Thank you, Ruth. How are you?
I'm fine. And how are you?
I'm all right. Thank you.
And how is the situation in Zimbabwe at the moment?
From a media perspective, it's been a very frustrating time, I think, for a lot of journalists. There's just been an increase in the number of harassment and intimidation cases of journalists. So yeah, there's really been a huge problem in terms of that. I think earlier this month, we had one of our leading journalists, he's an investigative journalist. He was released from prison after spending more than a month. And his crime was basically exposing corruption related to the procurement of PPEs and other COVID-related equipment.
Right. I know, because we actually paid international attention to that. Shall we have a look at your pictures and then go back to you afterwards?
Okay.
Let's have a look.
Operate from my side, yeah?
No.
Okay.
Our
Cool.
technician will take care of it.
All right.
Right, so we saw two people with facial masks, and we saw a man behind the computer. Maybe you can share with us why these pictures? Why have you chosen for these pictures?
Okay, I've chosen those pictures because there's two of the journalists on there are basically working in media startups, so to speak. There's just been a rise in a number of new media organizations that are online based, that focus more on community news. And so this is kind of starting to change the media landscapes in our country, where we have communities also starting to to contribute and to play an active role in the news about them. This is done through mostly podcasting, WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter. So what I did with the first two guys was to basically sit and listen to their stories about how they've been operating. The first organization called Community Podium was actually started this year in March. It's run by a team of 3 people. They've got a journalist who's based in the city here, and then there's an editor, and then the other person is just basically the owner of I think the director of the project. So their focus is more on rural news, outside of the city. I think for a long time now, stories from the rural areas have always been viewed, as, I don't know, they're not given the same prominence as stories from cities and towns. So I think we're starting to see a shift now. And this lady here that currently on our picture, her name is Daphne. She works with Community Podium. She's the one who coordinates the news, using people in different rural areas. So they've got WhatsApp groups for each district, and then people basically, submit their story ideas, and then she asks them to write the stories, and then those stories are then edited and then published onto their website. And after they've been published, they're then redistributed back to those communities using WhatsApp groups.
Great. And do you think that the future also lies there, having more community-oriented media rather than focusing on the big cities or the capitals?
Yes, I think the future lies there because, one, we've had for the past 40 years since independence, this government basically controls a huge chunk of the media, the main newspapers, the radio stations, and we still have only one TV channel since 40 years. So now the emergence of social media, I think, is starting to change all of that, because what that's doing is kind of neutralizing the.
And then you were frozen. Okay. Well, thank you, KB, for your participation in this series. You were the first. Next week, we will find out more. Let's go back to our 2 guests of today and to the topic, women in media. The last thing that we had, let me see, was that social media also plays a very important role. People are more or less in the media conditioned by tradition, or that they have done it already for so long. How can we actually solve this problem? Together, I think you already mentioned that. Maybe you, Janette, have also other ideas about this.
Yeah, I think it's a real tough thing that we have as our goals, our mutual goals, both the representation of women to increase that, but also less stereotyping, and also creating a better position for women on the working floor. So we have a monster with 3 heads to fight. And I think also the layers where we really have to be active have to be different. We have to be both on a macro level, I think, to see how our governments can play a role. We have to have the meso level of how the professionals are aware of how they act themselves and how they can steer that. And on a micro level, the public as a real interesting motor to see, to show that it is urgent to change. And I think that we covered that. We talked about that, but also about the media professionals, but also the governments should be, I think, really active in this perspective to start with research things, because now we have a media monitor where I could give you some numbers, but on male, female, and also on different ethnic minorities, it has not been researched well. And the idea now is that the media monitor was in 2019. It's something we asked for, and that it should be in 2021 again measured how the representation of women in media is. But this should be structural. This should be like in an emancipation monitor. And And
part of daily life.
Part of daily life, to make it visible how the differences are. I think it starts there also with the responsibility of a government, because we have also public broadcasters in the Netherlands. And they always say that we can touch their programs because they're independent, but you can measure how they're dealing with this issue.
Right. And Tidiane, you think also that is the main problem, or that could be a solution in Mali as well, if the government actually starts paying attention to this?
I think the government should pay attention to this. This is extremely important. In Mali, we have a law that we call the gender quota law, but it's not a quota actually, it's more a gender law. And unfortunately, this law is just applicable to the public sector. And what we need today is...
Sorry to interrupt, Tidiane, but the connection is a bit
can you
terrible.
Hear me?
Yeah, but there is a blur on the line, so it's difficult to hear you. Let's see if it's better now.
Is it better now?
There's still a hiccup in the line. Yeah, I'll get back to you in a minute. Maybe we can solve it internally here. Jeannette?
I'm really curious
yeah,
to
me
hear more.
Too,
because also a gender law for media would be interesting. We didn't go there yet. The BBC in England did, so I'm curious for Tidiane if it goes in Mali. We in the Netherlands work together with the Global Monitoring Media Project, together with you, FPU.
But it's once in a 5 year, right?
It's only once in the 5 years. It's from today to over 2 months. You don't know what day it will be counted, but we will do some kind of a check on how women are represented on one special day in the year. So we have like an informal project for these measurements, but we really want it to be formal for the government.
Right. Tidiane, let's go back to you. So a media law focusing on gender.
Yeah, well, we have a media. Well, the law I'm talking about is more general, but what we need today is a media law focused on gender, and we have different chapters that media organization has signed, and all those kind of initiatives from the government and also from the media umbrella organization is really extremely important if we want to change narrative and if we want to move forward. And from our own perspective here, we've designed what we call the GIP, the Gender Independence and Professionalism label. And this actually is working like ISO 9001. It identifies and recognizes organizations who actually are gender sensitive in their day.
And frozen. That is very interesting. He started actually.
This is something that we do. Hello?
Yeah, the line is still a little bit blurry. But give it a try, Tidiane.
Yeah. So I was just saying that it's important to have this initiative at the national level, but we also from the different umbrella organization level, it's important. And from what we've done as Wendy in partnership with FPU is what we call a gender independence and professionalism level. It works exactly like ISO 901, and it recognizes the different organizations who actually are gender sensitive. And this experience, for example, was something that's very interesting from what we've seen, because the different organizations who actually go in the process, more than 34 organizations, and respecting this, this document, they even change not only the content, but even the structure of the organization, the way the different positions are given to the people has changed now. We have more women in leader position, and we have more journalists, female journalists working on all type of subjects. So we are reducing seriously this charge of stereotype and this cultural influence also on on the process.
This is wonderful. So you actually make progress thanks to this label, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We actually make very, very big progress. And even the government himself, the former government, because as
you had a kind of a coup.
Yeah. So the former government tell us they want to use the different results that we've achieved, and they want to use this to recognize, and even when they are supporting organization, this will be a kind of criteria of supporting those organizations.
Wow, great. Is that something that could work also in the Netherlands?
Yeah, could I ask Tidiane, do they get your label or your certification if they are 50-50 or if they are progressing?
No, they need to achieve 70% of the requirement. It's not 50-50,
okay.
But at least they need to have 30% of women in leader position, and they need to have also. In terms of the global content of the article, not like all article, but when we take on a specific period, they need to be gender sensitive. When we take, for example, content produced for 1 month, they have to be achieved at least 40%. So there is different requirement in the document, and they have to fulfill those requirements.
Yeah. So it's also like some sort of pride when they set a goal and they achieve the goal that they set, and not a hard goal like the 50-50. I think it's really good the way you do that, because I noticed also in the Netherlands that the coalition I talked to you about in the start, we're really proud that this coalition of media makers that want to change that limited view by representation and stereotyping, they formed a coalition themselves after we asked them, and they are now doubled in the amount of media makers that want to be part of that. And they have sort of the same certification, not as explicit as you do it, because you make it a matter of pride, right, that you have the certification. And for us, it's more that they set their goals behind the screens, and they are really proud altogether if they reach them, but they're not really explicit about it. I think that's also because there's lots of shame. I don't know if you recognize that now also towards their publics. They don't want to make mistakes, because it's a real issue now in the Netherlands if you're doing well on inclusion, and they don't want to make mistakes. So maybe a visible label would be next step for us, but now they're setting their goals behind the scenes and are really proud if they can find
But this label, this GIP label, that is a visible label, I assume. Is it not, Tidiane?
Yes, it is a visible label, and they have this certificate. They have, they can show it in their organization, and also it's a kind of, proof of excellencies in terms of gender sensitivity.
Yeah. You're ahead of us there.
But do you recognize what Jeannette is saying, that actually here in the Netherlands, the media are shy and want to do it behind the scenes rather than actually show that they have a label? Is that totally different in Mali?
No, it's different. In Mali, they want many different. At the old beginning, it was complicated because they were thinking that this label will not change anything from what they are doing. But when they start to do it, it starts changing the practices, the content, even in terms of income. So for them, it's important for the different media organizations here to show that they are at a certain level.
Well done. You put a certain pride in it.
And something that's very interesting that we've seen, for example, here in Mali, it's we on a yearly basis they need to be audit. We do an audit to see if they are keeping their level. And we've seen during this last audit, we have 4 organizations who decided to go at the next level of the GIP.
Wow.
because we have 3 levels. So we have 4 organizations who decide to go at the next level. And it was very, for me, it was surprising because I couldn't imagine they will work hard and very hard to go at the upper level. And many others are telling us, okay, we are working to go at the upper level. So this is very encouraging.
And is it also something that people, like from the funding part, I don't know how the media organizations are funded in your country. Is it like that the government funds them, or is it like commercial advertisers funding them? Do the funders also think it's important to have a GIP label?
The funder is extremely important because they need to be independent from the organization who fund them. Even if because we have what we call the National Media Development Fund, and it given by the government, but they should be independent. Even if they are funded by an organization, they should be independent from the donor.
Yes,
They
but the
need
question, Tidiane, is: do the funders think it's important that they have the GIP label?
Yeah, they think it's extremely important. Even the government, this is what I was telling to you. The government said they want to use, they're considering the different organizations who already have the GIP label are already, favorable. They are favorable. They are more favorite in terms of support to be support. This is something. And also the media development organization also who fund, for example, some embassy and other international organizations are more open to support those organizations who already have this label.
Yeah.
So it
Okay.
is helping them to increase their income. So probably this is also one of the reasons why many organizations want to have this.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. International inspiration.
Absolutely.
Huh?
I think the Netherlands can actually learn from Mali, right?
Yeah, on this topic they can. Yeah.
Jeannette, can I ask you, why do you think gender equality is important for the future of journalism?
Well, I think we maybe touched that by saying because of the more perspectives and also because of the more publics you can reach and also lose if you don't. So I think by the new media, people see how user-generated content, how they can make content themselves, and it gets more visible than ever if institutionalized media miss certain perspectives or miss certain public. And I think that people will otherwise draw their own conclusions and just skip media and create their own. So I think the old media should make this transition actually.
With old, you mean the mainstream media?
Yeah, not the new digital media. This is actually what I mean. And also there's some topic that we didn't touch yet. Also, the new media have how they are created again. The question of not skipping people or stereotyping them, but algorithmic bias. I don't know. I think Tidiane is a IT specialist, I think. We have one project now on how algorithmic bias is also really stereotyping. I think if you Google and you put women and dance, then you always get a blonde woman with red hair dancing because there's a song about that. And I think it was Sheryl Sandberg who has this book on leaning in and leaning out, who made a new database of photographs and new tags to find them. So she makes woman, and then she makes a woman climbing the Mount Everest. That's the image of woman and power.
Right.
So also in algorithms, it's really important that the nerds of our society are not only men designing these algorithms by which we design our new digital
They should be gender sensitive too.
They should.
And is that also the case in Mali, Tidiane?
Yeah, it's also the case, unfortunately, and I completely agree with you on this. Unfortunately, when the algorithm are bringing because of the ads, the different campaign or ads provider are like selecting specific type of images, and this is something that needs to be changed. This is sure. And if we want this situation to be changed, we need to have more people educated to gender, even developer. We are civic tech organization, but all our staff, we are 22 people working here, but male and female. Everybody here is educated to gender, and we have also a gender policy. So this is some effort that we need to have in all type of organization, so they can be gender sensitive when they are. And this is how they will be then able to share. And I think regarding the question you were asking on what will be like the future of gender or the future journalism. For me, there is no future for journalism if there is no gender sensitivity. We need to be gender sensitive in both in content and in all kind of platform, even on social media, on the regular media. The gender is like a kind of key to save all the cohesion that we have and to bring all people together and to create more peace space and more fruitful environment if we want to grow, particularly here in Africa. This is something that is key. All the African community who have a very good development in general are more gender sensitive, and all those who are not gender sensitive are just condemned to be destroyed.
This is wonderful that what you're saying. Gender brings all people together. Wonderful. Let's hold on to that thought. Jeanette, actually, you brought also a video with us.
Yeah, there's something Tidiane touched already on how deeply rooted all these stereotypes are in our brains. Gender sensitive is a difficult word, but we should all, being media makers, also see that we're ourselves so stereotyped in how we think about men and women. And my statement in life is you can't be what you can't see. And I brought a little film which was on BBC, which really, really gives that a wink.
Let's have a look.
This afternoon, we're going to draw people doing different jobs. And the first job we're going to draw is a firefighter.
Have a think in your head what a firefighter looks like.
We're doing a firefighter. What's your firefighter called?
Mine's called Firefighter Gary. Firefighter Stan. Firefighter Simon. He's big and strong. He's got a big helmet on.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Next, we're going to draw a surgeon.
Have you thought of a name for your surgeon?
Jim Bob.
Jim Bob.
He's a brain surgeon. I think he would wear a stethoscope. He gives you medicine. That's his ambulance.
OK, next, we're going to draw a fighter pilot.
This is his jet plane. He rescues people. He likes to do stunts in the air and stuff.
OK, now who would like to meet these people for real?
Yeah! They're dressed up.
My name's Tamzin and I'm a surgeon in the NHS.
My name's Lauren and I'm a pilot in the Royal Air Force.
My name's Lucy. I'm a firefighter in the London Fire Brigade.
So who wants to know how to do an operation?
Who's putting it on?
I'll try my stethoscope.
We put this in here.
What does it look like?
There you go. Now you're a proper fighter pilot.
So into your ears. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
It's really good. It's much better, yeah, it's much better than the kids' one.
Typical. How old is this video?
I don't know. I do it again and again because it says it all.
It says it all.
This is the reason why I'm so in favor of independent media and stop stereotyping, because all these boys and girls can be what they want in the world of 2050. 50?
Well, that was actually my last question to the both of you, because sadly we have to wrap up. I want to ask you, what does the media landscape look like in 2050? Tidiane, short and brief, please. Now.
Hello?
Yes, you're still with us.
I think the media landscape should be more gender sensitive and more professional and more independent.
Great. And Jeanette?
Open horizons for all boys and girls all over the world. And the
Wow.
media showing them how to reach what they want to be.
Wow. Very good. Thank you all for watching. And thank to my guest, Tidiane, thank you very much. Jeanette, thank you very much for coming to the studio. This was the 13th episode of Emerging Stories, the talk show where we talk about the future of journalism. And next week, I will be back with new business models for journalism. Pakhuis de Zwijger has livecast around all different topics every day. Check out their website. And for now, thank you all very much. Have a good evening. Goodbye.